My lovely besties, welcome to African Tales by Ifyinanya, where every story whispers the wisdom of old generations and new generations. Let's begin. In the small Igbo village of Umuaka, where goats strolled across the road like they owned the land and gossip traveled faster than a motorcycle, lived Mazi Okeke, a man known for his quick wit, endless proverbs, and trousers that were always a little too short. One hot afternoon, Mazi Okeke sat under the mango tree peeling groundnuts when a stranger walked into the compound. The man wore a black suit, dark sunglasses, and carried a shiny briefcase that made him look like he had just stepped out of foreign film. "Are you Mazi Okeke?" the man asked in crisp English. Mazi Okeke, who was widely known as Mazi, chewing loudly, replied, "If I am not, will you give me money?" The man smiled and explained that Mazi's late cousin, who had lived in London, had died and left him a huge inheritance. At first, Mazi thought it was a joke. "So, well, my cousin died, and instead of sending condolences, you sent wealth? Chai, God, your ways are higher than Nipa wires." When Mama Okeke heard the news, she fell to the ground and began rolling in the dust like a woman whose only son had won the lottery of life. My enemies have failed," she shouted, waving her hands to the sky. She immediately began listing all the things they would buy with this London money: a cement house with shiny zinc roof, a generator that would run day and night, and maybe even a television that showed only foreign channels. But Mama Okeke was also worried. "Okeke, London people eat strange food. They don't know about bitter leaf soup. How will you survive?" Mazi grinned and replied, "Mama, my stomach is like a council of elders. It can adapt to any situation." In the background, curious neighbors had gathered, whispering about how Mazi would go to London and return with a funny accent, forgetting all of them. "Ah, this life," said one old woman. "Today you are peeling groundnuts. Tomorrow you are peeling pounds sterling." Before Mazi could even decide whether to travel, the village elder, Chief Aloysius, summoned him to his compound. Chief Aloysius was a man whose wisdom was as wide as his belly, and whose walking stick was more for show than support. "Mazi Okeke," he began, "this journey is not just about money. You will be representing the entire Umuaka people in London. If you disgrace yourself, you disgrace all of us." Mazi nodded solemnly, though inside he was thinking more about how to use a fork and knife without injuring himself. Chief Aloysius advised him to remember the dignity of his ancestors, to avoid the temptation of Oyinbo women who wear skirts shorter than an elder's patience, and to come back with knowledge, not just riches. Mazi promised to uphold the village's honor, though the way he scratched his head suggested he wasn't entirely sure how to do that. In the days leading up to his departure, Mazi sought advice from Ikena, a mischievous young man who claimed to have visited London, though the closest he had been was Lagos Airport, where he once helped a traveler carry bags. Ikena's tips were both suspicious and hilarious. "When you get to London, don't greet strangers too much. They will think you are mad. And when you see snow, don't eat it like ice cream. It's cold water with pride." He also told Mazi to wear 3 pairs of trousers at once, because London breeze can freeze your future. Mazi, though skeptical, scribbled these tips on a piece of paper he called the London Survival Manual. By the time Ikena was done, Mazi felt like he was about to travel to another planet, not another country. The day of Mazi's departure turned into a full-blown village festival. Women sang songs of farewell, children danced around him, and men slaughtered a fat goat in his honor. Even the goats and chickens seemed to sense something big was happening. They gave Mazi suspicious looks, as if wondering if he would bring back foreign animal feed. Mama Okeke tied a red scarf on her head and clung to her son like she might never see him again. "Remember to pray every morning and every night," she instructed. "And if London people try to give you food without pepper, reject it." Mazi, wearing a brand new pair of oversized sunglasses, waved at everyone like a celebrity. Someone even hung a plastic Bon Voyage banner between 2 mango trees. By the time he climbed into the bus heading to the airport, the whole village was talking about how Umuaka now had its own ambassador to London. Mazi's first challenge came at the airport in Lagos. He was baffled by the automatic sliding doors, jumping back the first time they opened. "This door has an evil spirit," he exclaimed, causing a security guard to chuckle. Inside, He was overwhelmed by the bright lights, fast announcements, and a sheer number of people in a hurry. At security, he refused to take off his shoes, arguing, "If I remove them here, who will guarantee I will see them again?" After much persuasion, he complied, but not without muttering about how city people have no respect for footwear. When the boarding announcement came, Mazi nervously clutched his boarding pass like it was gold. As the plane took off, he shouted, "Hey, pilot, drive gently, yo," earning amused glances from nearby passengers. When Mazi stepped out of the airport in London, the cold slapped him so hard he almost apologized. Who switched off the sun?" he cried, fumbling with his thin jacket. He remembered Ikena's advice and quickly layered on 2 extra trousers in the restroom. A man holding a placard with his name, spelled Mazi Okeke, approached. It was Mr. Brown, the British lawyer. On the drive into the city, Mazi pressed his face to the window, marveling at the tall buildings, red buses, and orderly traffic. "So people can drive without shouting at each other? Wonders," he muttered. Every now and then, he waved at pedestrians, forgetting that Londoners were not used to strangers greeting them so warmly. Mr. Brown eventually introduced Mazi to Lily, the late cousin's fiancée. Lily was tall, blonde, and wore a winter coat that looked like it could swallow her whole. When Mazi saw her, he whispered to Mr. Brown, "This one is taller than our village palm tree." Lily smiled politely and extended her hand, but Mazi ignored it and went in for a full hug. "In my village, we greet with warmth," he declared, nearly knocking her over. Lily found his humor odd but endearing. Over tea, she tried to explain the inheritance situation, but Mazi was more interested in the tiny biscuits on the table. "So you people eat snacks meant for rats?" he asked, popping 3 into his mouth. Mr. Brown explained that Mazi's cousin had left him not just money, but also a house in the suburbs. However, there was a catch. The will stated that Mazi must live in the house for 6 months before he could sell it. Live here, with this cold weather. Mazi frowned, but the thought of going back to the village empty-handed made him agree. Lily, who was still grieving, was unsure about living with this eccentric man from the village, but Mr. Brown insisted it was the only way to honor the will. Mazi smiled, thinking, 6 months in this London, I will conquer it like a yam farm after harvest. Lily decided to take Mazi grocery shopping to help him settle in. The moment they entered the supermarket, Mazi froze. This place is like a food museum. He walked from aisle to aisle, poking items suspiciously. He picked up a block of cheese and whispered, "Is this soap?" When Lily explained, he sniffed it and nearly gagged. At the meat section, he shouted, "Where's the goat head? No cow leg? How do people survive here?" He eventually filled the trolley with strange items he didn't understand, including 3 bottles of shampoo, thinking they were cooking oil. One evening, Lily heard a loud bang from the bathroom. She rushed in to find Mazi standing in front of the toilet, frowning deeply. "This thing swallows water like a hungry river," he complained. Apparently, he had pressed the flush repeatedly, thinking it would bring water for bathing. Lily laughed until her sides hurt, then patiently explained the difference between a toilet and a bathtub. Mazi shook his head and muttered, "In my village, a hole in the ground is more honest. It doesn't pretend to be what is not." Determined to explore on his own, Mazi boarded a London bus one morning. He tried to pay the driver with Nigerian naira, and when the driver refused, he said, "Money is money, my friend." After being shown how to use an Oyster card, Mazi sat upstairs on the double-decker, waving at every passerby. He was shocked that no one waved back. "These people's faces are like they swallowed bitter leaf without soup," he muttered. He accidentally missed his stop and ended up in a completely different neighborhood, where he asked a shopkeeper, "Please, where can I find Umuaka here?" Tensions began to rise when Lily invited some of her friends over for dinner. Mazi insisted on cooking, determined to show them real African food. He made a pot of pepper soup so fiery that Lily's friends were in tears after one sip. Don't cry. The pepper is just greeting your tongue," Mazi assured them. But the evening took a turn when Mazi, trying to entertain the guests, began telling loud village jokes about goats and stubborn wives, which left everyone confused. After they left, Lily confronted him about being more considerate. Mazi felt insulted. If they can't handle pepper or laughter, How will they handle life? He asked. It was the first real argument between them, and the beginning of bigger cultural storms ahead. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe and turn on your notifications for part 2. See you next time, besties.